pop singers to movie stars, there has been no shortage of famous names entering rehab facilities to cure their addictions. Well, these detox centers look luxurious, but the people inside the gate say there is some very hard work that goes on inside. NBC's John Larson has a look now at some of these Tony treatment facilities where the rich and famous check in to dry out.
When former Miss USA Tara Conner checked out of a treatment center in Pennsylvania clean and sober, she said it had been fun. When Britney Spears entered Promises Treatment Center in Malibu, many thought, about time. When Lindsay Lohan sought help at Wonderland in Hollywood, the press almost hurt themselves.
Lindsay checked in here at Wonderland Center around 2:30 yesterday, wearing black tights, a leather jacket, and holding a Jamba Juice in her hand.
What's inside? Many look like five-star resorts, swimming pools, private tennis lessons, organic world-class meals. But some say for super-rich addicts, it's necessary.
It's a way to seduce people to come into treatment. Because coming in is going to be the hardest thing anyone has ever done in their life when they're addicted to drugs or alcohol.
Still, seeking soft accommodations at $30,000 to $50,000 a month when you're trying to accomplish something very hard makes some in the field skeptical.
If you're a Hollywood star, you're living in the same luxurious way you did in your Beverly Hills mansion when you go into the treatment center. That's not a recipe for success.
Nonetheless, the list of Hollywood celebrities going in and coming out reportedly sober grows. Proof, some say, to the serious healing going on inside.
It's not just, I want to say, massage, acupuncture, go to the gym, and manicures. You know, that's not at all our treatment. That wouldn't provide a good outcome.
Glamorous? Only to those who know nothing about the hell of addiction. Stars are pampered, only to a point. Just ask the chef.
Somebody will come up and say, like, well, I don't do dairy, or I only eat kosher, so what are you using? And then I ask them, so what got you here? And they'll say, oh, crystal meth. I go, was that crystal meth kosher? Was it, like, organic? And they shut up right away.
For today, John Larson, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Dr. Keith Abloh is a psychiatrist and the host of the Dr. Keith Abloh Show, and Janice Min is the editor-in-chief of Us Weekly magazine. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
You know, it strikes me as odd what's happening with rehab because, you know, we used to think of it as something that people were ashamed to admit, ashamed even to go into, even if they needed to. Keith, what's happened?
Well, I think it's a double-edged sword. It's a good thing that we destigmatize this, and to the extent that it becomes acceptable and even fashionable to get help for your condition, that's great. On the other hand, if it's not real, if people are manipulating as they've manipulated in their lives when they use substances and saying, hey, I'm going in to get help, but they're not really doing that, that would do damage to their recovery, but also to the notion of recovery in general.
Manipulating, that's an interesting word to use here, because some are believing, Janice, that, and I wonder if this is fair, that the idea of going into rehab is actually just a tool in the movie star's publicist's toolbox.
Well, there's no doubt that there's a huge public relations angle to going into rehab today. When you look at someone like Lindsay Lohan or Britney Spears, these are young women whose lives are lived so publicly and who had very public troubles. You know, Britney Spears obviously shaving her head, Lindsay having a lot of very public bouts with partying, and this was in many ways the last stop for them. This is the way they could save their images.
Save their careers
in
some
careers.
ways.
I mean, remember, Hollywood, even though it's all fun and there's lots of money, people put up millions and millions of dollars just to fund projects, to produce albums, to make movies. They need responsible young people to still report to work just like you and I do.
And, you know, I think that's why it's so important that, you know, the hope for recovery resides in the heart and the motivations of the clinician. So you can have a five-star rehab as long as when people arrive, the focus is on the work. And I will say this, it's harder to have that pure focus when you are in any way starstruck yourself as a clinician. So to the extent that you feel that the person should be pampered, you've lost the battle.
What you're intimating here is something that we really must say, which is that addiction is a very real problem, not just with movie stars, but with America. So many people are addicted. And the question is, you know, what kind of a message does it send when we put out these kinds of stories about these movie stars going in for short-term treatments, when in fact, addiction treatment doesn't happen in a short term?
It's a long-term problem, and that's what a clinician has to say. say, look, I've run detox units, I've treated high-profile people. You have to be willing to confront those individuals and say, look, your core problem has been either your addiction to celebrity in addition to this substance, or your addiction to public acclaim if it's a politician. And the bottom line is, I know you want to go back on the road and say you're fine, not with my blessing. Somebody has to stand for reality and for real healing, and it better be the clinician. And to the extent that you have people coming in, and I've seen this, and donating buildings to the rehab facility where they're being treated, your foundation is eroded to make a change.
Do you think, Janice, that we're sending a false message, a bad message to the American people by reporting so much about these movie stars and their rehab woes?
It's part of our own celebrity addiction. You know, we are